So the new season of The Mandalorian has just debuted, on Friday if you're listening on Monday, and on Friday the 30th of October if you're listening way in the future. It was very good. In my opinion, I really enjoyed it. We're not going to go into the spoilers of it just yet. We'll do a big episode on it towards the end of the season. But Phil, what did you think?
I really liked it. Its structure was pretty standard. Like, if you've watched a lot of TV shows, it is standard season opener where the overarching plot is the inciting incident, but they end up on like a side thing. And then at the end, obviously, it lets you know how the side thing has affected the overarching plot.
Yes, exactly.
I thought it was really good. It was really it looked really good, I think.
Oh, that CGI is insane, isn't it?
Yeah, like the special effects and like all the costume design and everything was just... I was really impressed with it.
And it's very exciting to see how, because they've started production on season 3 and it seems like they're able to carry on through quarantine and actually sort of smash these products out, like the the upcoming Obi-Wan and the Cassian series. It sounds as if they're able to sort of mash these out at a rate of knots because of the sort of new technology through Industrial Light and Magic and the Unreal Engine and the virtual production and this, that and the other.
Well, they do a lot of it, they do a lot of it in like these, basically, I was going to say igloo, but it's like basically like a techie igloo, isn't it?
That's it, yeah.
So therefore you can control a lot of the ins and outs and probably makes it pretty easy to stay compliant with all the restrictions. The
best way of explaining it is it's if you've ever seen the opening, the prologue of 2001: A Space Odyssey, where they've done rear projection onto these screens of the sort of desert landscape. This is a similar kind of thing, except these are just big LED screens that have a high flicker rate, so that you don't see any of it on camera. It literally just looks like the real world, and obviously the lighting is done by that as well. So you don't need to. It's not like a green screen where you need to sort of match the lighting later on in the production process. It just looks natural and gorgeous. And I'm so excited to see how they can sort of utilise this technology in the future. We thought it'd be a good idea to talk about what could come next on Disney Plus in terms of Star Wars TV shows.
The premise is Disney, for some reason, have come to me and Nick and said, what would you make a Star Wars TV show about? And we've come up with some ideas. So I don't know how you want to play this, because mine are all bullet points. that I feel we'd just bounce back and forth. I'd give an overview, and then obviously you can build on it. But I don't know if you wouldn't do like one each until we just get bored and tired of this.
Yeah, let's do that, and then we might even bounce into the same ideas now and again as well. So let's give it a go. You go first.
Yeah. Oh, me first. So let's. Well, I'm gonna start with. Did you ever see? Like, do you follow on Twitter that Death Star PR?
Yes.
Because did you see that they made like a short web series of that once, which was like the PR department of the Death Star?
I didn't know.
It was a good concept, but it was really bad. I just really didn't like it because it seemed just like it thought the concept was funny enough. It didn't really do anything with it, and obviously it was a web show, so it didn't really have the production quality. But just some kind of... Bear in mind, this would be alongside other cooler shows that I'll go into later. But obviously my first idea has to be a bit more of a weird and wonderful one. But just like some mundane job in the galaxy, where all this like weird explosive shifts, through the Clone Wars or through like the Empire or something, and all these events are happening in the background, they're just having to deal with like the mess.
Right, yeah.
Like, I don't think it could ever go above like webisodes. I don't think it could ever get like too major.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, all my others are better ideas. I should stress.
No,
these are just the order I wrote them down.
I think that's quite a cool idea. I had something like a kind of similar vibe idea because there obviously used to be those sort of parodies like Troopers, and obviously you've got like the SNL sketches as well, where it's kind of like a day in the life of stormtroopers, and I think that is definitely a possibility in terms of. You know how the MCU is sort of is going to be using Disney Plus to kind of expand its genre, whereas like Star Wars is everything that's been announced is kind of a little bit it's all pretty straight faced, isn't it?
Yeah, although saying that, like, obviously the Clone Wars had episodes like that, like the animated Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you knew who the janitor on Kamino was. And it had, like, the stories of the clones, and obviously the Bad Batch is going to get made. Obviously, that was all very clone-oriented.
That's true, but it wasn't as sort of like wink wink nudge nudge as like maybe you'd hope. Whereas I'd quite like to see something a little bit more, I don't know, light. There was these two Imperial characters, I can't remember the names of them for the life of me, that used to be sort of a thing in Legends, who sort of oversaw a lot of the most important sort of bits in Star Wars. I can't for the life of me remember these two. They sort of accidentally caused some of them as well, and it was a little bit of sort of a comedy kind of thing. And I'm not sure they could do that and necessarily call it canon, because then you're sort of ruining the lore of a lot of how these events happen. But I don't know, maybe I'd quite like to see like stuff happening in the background of these two sort of clowns kind of thing. Like I don't know.
No, that's what I would want. That's kind of what obviously a fan made thing would lack, is kind of the production quality to actually have a battle going on in the background.
Yeah.
And have it be that this is like two people arguing whilst like the Death Star's falling apart or something. Yeah.
No, exactly.
So that was kind of like the vibe of my first idea. Do you want to do the next pitch?
Yeah, my next one was actually kind of based on... I read The Rise of Kylo Ren quite recently, which is a graphic novel that kind of details Ben Solo's expeditions with Luke and Lor San Tekka. I didn't love it, I gotta say, because I think it kind of... It's got to kind of compensate a fair amount for what the sort of the narrative roller coaster that is the sequel trilogy. For instance, it's got Lor San Tekka, who sort of randomly pops up and says like, "Hey, you know, you're Han Solo's son, and you've got to be a good guy," sort of thing. And then you've got like Palpatine, who just pops up in kind of one panel towards the end, where he just says like, "Yes, this was part of my design," or something like that. And then just that's the rest you see of him, of the whole novel kind of thing. It's just like, was it?
It's trying to like paper over the cracks.
Yeah, exactly, and sort of tie in the. It's only 3 movies. How did they send it in such a wild trajectory? Anyway, but yeah, I didn't like how it kind of had to paper over the cracks. But the interesting stuff is seeing young Jedi growing up and being trained by Luke, and some of the sort of journeys they go on. And I think like Ben Solo is such an interesting character that we've not really seen a huge amount of. It also seems like a natural progression of where we could see the franchise going at some point, because obviously they did the original trilogy, then they did Anakin as a child and as a young man. So like, I don't know, Kylo Ren would be a really cool one to see as well. I don't know who you could cast. Maybe like what's his face from Stranger Things, Finn Wolfhard, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. I could see something like that happening. Yeah, and it would help bridge that sort of that gap between the two trilogies as well, in the same way that we're starting to see a little bit. Again, I won't give much away, but from The Mandalorian, we're starting to see tiny bits of the sort of the bridge between the trilogies. I'd quite like to see more of that gap plugged, essentially. Yeah,
no, I'd agree with that. I think that'd be a good one. To be honest, I do have some sequel stuff on here.
Yeah,
but I didn't write Kylo Ren. I think Kylo Ren would be a good focus, because I got 2 for the sequels. One is young Poe
as a
smuggler,
as a straight man who smuggles spice.
Yeah.
As a totally straight man who smuggles spice, as he always has done. Don't he?
Yeah. Okay, maybe young Poe would have been a better pitch before episode 9. The other one was Finn, like as a janitor on Starkiller Base.
Sanitation, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, that might tie in with the first idea we had. I don't know. Yeah.
I've written John Boyega as Finn, but I don't think that's the role that he would come back for.
Sweeping.
Yeah, we want to show you as a stormtrooper, like unclogging bogs, whilst all this fascist stuff is happening behind you.
Well, I mean, I if you don't mind if I lead on from that, I was going to say I'd quite like to see the sort of. I think this is probably more orientated towards a movie at some point, but I'd quite like to see sort of Rey and Finn leading a new generation of Jedi, with Finn as a sort of fully fledged Jedi, because I think it's clear that's kind of where John Boyega was promised his character was sort of going to end up. So I'd quite like to see that fulfilled.
Yeah. No, I think that potentially would be a future movie in the instance that they go, actually, no, we said that the Skywalker saga was over after the prequels, and we know we said it again after the sequels. But now these are the sequels, or the super sequels. I don't know how.
I mean, not one single person believed that it was the last in the saga, did they?
No. Not even George Lucas believed it after Episode 3. He did have plans for them, didn't he?
Yeah.
Sequels.
Yeah.
But my next ideas are actually a bit more substantive, I guess. Because one of the things, when I was really little, and I first saw Episode 2, this is Attack of the Clones.
I know it.
One of the things that I got confused about was when they are at the clone facility. I used to get Cypher Dyas and Qui-Gon Jinn mixed up when I was like 6. And I was like, why did he get more clones? I don't get this at all. But obviously they expand on Cypher Dyas a little bit during the Clone Wars. But that is what I think would make a good series. It'd probably be obviously only one series, like limited run. But obviously Cypher Dyas interacts with Dooku, he interacts with Qui-Gon, he interacts with Windu. And clearly he's quite heavily involved in all of this stuff. And obviously we've only ever... obviously there's stuff in the Clone Wars where they are investigating his disappearance. But I thought that would be like a really cool series.
Yeah, totally. I think that's... that links with another idea that I sort of piped up as well, which was something loosely based on Palpatine's rise to power. And don't say we already had that in the prequel trilogy, because prior to the prequel trilogy and during the prequel trilogy, him and his master Darth Plagueis, more of which we'll cover in the next season of Beggar's Canyon, by the way. There is a little bit of how Palpatine interacts with Cypher Dyas and Qui-Gon, and it's quite and Cypher Dyas and Qui-Gon have very similar traits in that they sort of don't necessarily believe in the Jedi, and I think that's such an interesting idea, because you see a little bit of like the sort of the dogmatic view of the Jedi kind of thing, but I mean, like, to see like Jedi actually doubt their teachings and say like, well, it's ridiculous that we call ourselves peacekeepers, and yet we're sort of we're treating ourselves as our own personal soldiers and stuff like that, but we can't, on the same page, we can't defend the entire Republic. So it's Plagueis who plants that idea into Cypher Dyas in Legends. So I'd love to see something like that, sort of done in live action.
No, I think something in that era where you've almost got like the two stories going in tandem, like Plagueis and Palpatine in one, but obviously how they interact with the Jedi, which I guess would be Cypher Dyas, Qui-Gon, and Dooku, I'd see as being like the three main ones.
Yeah.
And showing how they have to be like, they almost have to discuss this stuff outside of the Council, and outside of the Jedi Temple, because they can't. Yeah, so I think that would be like the basis of a really cool show. Like a lot of, like, as long as they did it right and it wasn't just like nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Hey, look, there's something that's going to come up in episode 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have any other ideas?
So I have one is quite broad, but I've just said a story in a world that's so far in the Outer Rim where they don't even know officially about Jedi, Sith, or what the Force is. And how they deal with like a Force-sensitive person coming out appearing for the first time, and like deal with like the mysticism of the Force with like a very clean perspective. Like that again could be a movie, but that could like be just a limited run series as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a very good point, because I think like what's working or what's going to work about the sort of Disney Plus stuff is that you don't necessarily want it to be like crossing over massively with the movies, do you?
No.
You want it because, like with The Mandalorian, I think it's arguably so successful because the stakes are kind of high, and you don't. It's not the fate of the universe that's at stake. It's kind of. It's the fate of a small town, or it's the fate of the child, or it's the fate of...
It's very character-driven, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. So,
and it's the stakes and relative size to the people like involved in it.
Yeah, because you can't even look at episode 7, 8 or 9 in the films, and you can't be like, oh, well, we know Din Djarin made it to this episode because he's here in the background of this kind of thing. You don't know what happened because it's worlds apart. And I think that's probably... where it would be the most success. Having said that, I'd quite like to see something about the sort of the birth of the Jedi and the birth of the Sith as well. That's another idea I sort of noted down.
Depends if they do like an Old Republic movie, like they keep talking about, isn't it?
Well, it seems like they're sort of gearing up towards. I mean, obviously the next big push is the High Republic. But I, who knows how that's going to fare, because obviously the previous times they've tried to sort of introduce a new era through not the movies, it's kind of not quite taken off in the way they've always hoped. But Disney Plus could be the future of that. You never know.
And then have you got any more?
No, it's me.
So my last one, kind of in the theme of some of my other ideas, would be like young Leia and Alderaan.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't really know where that one would go. But obviously, they did stuff like the Sarah Connor Chronicles, and that ended up being pretty successful.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're showing her like getting into politics, almost, not to use the phrase too lightly, but almost getting radicalised with the rebels.
Yeah,
like through her father and things like that. You
know what? I'd love that. The best Star Wars book I've read so far has been Aftermath, which is set between 6 and 7, not 3 and 4, but it's set between 6 and 7, but it focuses on Leia. That's another one I could see, maybe as not necessarily a Star Wars TV show, but maybe like a sort of a mini-series, like of a sort of epic mini-series. I think would be really cool, because it kind of covers the birth of the sort of resistance and sort of the beginnings of the First Order. But it's so interesting. It's kind of like it's the Empire Strikes Back, but for Leia, and you see the world's reaction to her being the daughter of Darth Vader, and it gets outed in front of the whole Senate kind of thing, and it's about her sort of reaction to that. It's really, really interesting, and I'd love to see something that follows on a bit more of Leia.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be something with Leia would be really good. Like in some aspects, you've talked that book. I think we've discussed it before, and you've said it's really good.
If you did do your sort of young Leia and Alderaan, we've already discussed Finn Wolfhard as young Kylo Ren. What about Millie Bobby Brown as young Leia?
Yeah. Just getting all the Stranger Things cast.
Yeah, involved. I mean, have you seen the resemblance? It's pretty uncanny, actually. Like when you sort of look in the face and everything.
No, would Netflix let us do that?
Yes.
Surely they have those.
Yes. Well, they've got these children sort of contracted to never work for anyone else again.
You know those things they put around people's ankles when they're on house arrest?
Yes.
Stops them entering Disney lots. So out of everything we've pitched, what would you put as like your number one?
Well, I think, as we've said, like I don't think the right attitude for Disney Plus and for expanding Star Wars is to simply sort of take existing premises or take existing character. I think like you've got to do something a little bit out there, and I think what you said about doing a sort of kind of light-hearted comedy-esque thing based around a sort of simple, I don't know, a stormtrooper or something similar. I'd love to see something like that, to be honest, because it helps. The reputation of Star Wars is so massive that it's I don't know, it's quite difficult to even watch a new Star Wars thing without the kind of reputation or the hype kind of overwhelm you. So I'd love to see a comedy where you're not too reliant on sort of the shock value of bringing back certain characters, etc. I'd love to see something a bit more low key and funny.
I think, I think the thing that I really enjoy about Star Wars is that it is quite a broad church.
Yeah.
I think, all types of people love Star Wars, so therefore I think they could, like, Marvel were doing and like other franchises did, they could do different types of content. Obviously, they've done those animated ones, haven't they? Like, where they like sum up bits from like the original trilogy animated, which I think look really clean in some places.
Yes, nice animation.
And obviously the Lego stuff is for like the real young kids, and us at Christmas when we watch the holiday special. But I think, I think something that's a bit more light-hearted could really go with it, and especially when you see the fact that the biggest thing talked about from The Mandalorian Season 1 was the child and how cute it was, not anything else.
Yeah.
It shows that clearly there is scope for some more light-hearted, more wholesome content from our Star Wars.
Totally.